When it comes to hard sparring, there's something that world-class fighters know that you don't. I was just about to get in the ring and spar with Carl Froch, who was the current middleweight champion of the world. And I couldn't believe what he said to me before we entered the ring. And his words changed everything about how I sparred from then on out. Did you know every time you take a punch to the head, your brain shakes inside your skull like jelly in a jar? These sparring sessions that you might think are toughening you up might actually be causing you more damage than you realize, because most people these days are sparring wrong. And if you're one of those people, you need to stop. And I'm going to tell you something you can do right now to make sure you're sparring not only to get the most out of each session, but to keep you safe as well. And I'm not just talking about light sparring, I'm talking about a method what will help you improve so much, but where you can spar more as well and be safe while you're doing it. And then when you're in your late 30s like me, you don't have to go and visit brain doctors like I do, get brain scans like I do, and be constantly thinking about what you can do to make your brain even sharper. But before we get into the details how you should start sparring, let me ask you this. Have you ever felt the short-term effects of sparring wrong? These will include dizziness, headaches after your sparring session, and can really mess up your coordination for a short period of time. I know I felt this during my career. I've sparred thousands of rounds, had 106 fights, and even though I had success in boxing, winning an Olympic medal, I didn't think about the long-term damage that sparring could have been doing to me when I was in there sparring, because the long-term effects is even scarier than the short-term, like memory loss, difficulty concentrating, depression, and chronic traumatic encephalopathy, I think you pronounce it, also known as CTE, which so many fighters have these days and has damaged so many lives. This is also known as being punch drunk. Now, if you're feeling any of these effects in your brain right now, right at the end of this video, I'm going to give you some things that you can do to help already damaged brains and brain health and memory, things that I'm doing all the time right now. So watch till the end if you want them tips for that. Hard sparring has been glorified for decades, especially with the old school boxing coaches. Then even the likes of Floyd Mayweather, he promotes sparring like fights in his gym in Las Vegas, where he has people come into the gym basically punching the shit out of each other in the ring just for the entertainment of the people of watching and for his own entertainment as well. It's bloody stupid. And I'll probably get criticised for saying this, but you know what, mate? I don't bloody care, because you need to know that each time your brain gets rattled from a punch, you're one step closer to getting CTE.
But that'll never happen to me.
You're probably thinking that. Then you're probably thinking,
Tony, how the hell do you expect me to get used to people punching me in the face if I'm not sparring? How am I supposed to work on defense with punches coming at me face really hard? How can I get used to having a fight without sparring? Tony, you're an idiot. Tony, you're talking out your ass. Tony, I'm not watching your videos anymore.
bloody hell. Are you saying that? Are you thinking that? No, mate. You've actually got to spar if you're going to fight. Sparring is essential to sharpen up your skills if you're planning on getting in the ring and having a fight. As long as you're not doing it the way that most people are doing it the wrong way, and you're going to do it the way that I'm going to tell you in a minute, you'll be good. I'm going to tell you why it's essential to spar if you're having a fight. Imagine this. You've done your full training camp without any sparring. All you've been doing is working on the bags and hitting the mitts. When you get into the ring, what you're going to do if what you've been working on the bags and on the mitts has not worked? How would you adjust if your fast, hard jab is landing great on the mitts or on the bag, but then you're in the ring and it's missing and you're getting countered with the overhand right? It's going to be very hard to switch up your game plan mid-fight, because you can hit the bag all day long, visualizing opponents. You can be on the mitts with the trainer, working on different game plans all day long. And I just want to say, if you don't plan on fighting but you want to spar, I wouldn't recommend head sparring. I would recommend shoulder and body sparring. This is all I do these days. It's great because you can get really competitive. If you switch off, you can still get hurt with a body shot if you're into that stuff. And I'm going to add a full video on this channel talking about shoulder and body sparring and the right and wrong ways of doing it, so you should subscribe and turn your notifications on so you don't miss that one. But like I said, if you're planning on fighting, you need to head spar. And not just light sparring, because it's a fight and it's going to get hard. And the method that I'm about to give you will really help you with that. But first, there's 3 more things that you can do right now to prevent you from getting hurt, both in the short term and the long term when you are sparring. The first thing is very important and often overlooked, especially from fighters or people trying to lose weight. And if you're not doing this right, it really affects your body's ability to absorb shock, increasing the risk of concussion or other brain injuries. And what it is, you need to be fully hydrated, not just for fights, but for training sessions as well. But drinking a gallon of water is often not enough to do this. You know, during my Olympic training camp days, me and the team used to have electrolyte drinks for both pre and post workout. Now moving on to number 2. This will also keep you very safe in sparring. It's what I used to do even when I was 13 years old. And when I was sparring with super middleweight champion Carl Froch, he made sure that we were both doing this before our session. And that was wearing 16-ounce gloves for both you and your sparring partner. These gloves will provide extra padding, not stopping the risk, but reducing the risk of damage and concussion. And listen, mate, there's absolutely 0 benefits of you sparring in 14-ounce gloves or 12-ounce gloves. And if you're wearing 10-ounce gloves for sparring, change gyms, mate. No one should be wearing 10-ounce gloves for sparring. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, moving on to number 3. Don't spar at the end or even during your training session. Now, I know some coaches watching this will be saying,
"Well, Tony, sparring at the end of the training session is the best time to spar. It's going to help you build conditioning. It's going to help you get fitter and stronger. Getting in there when you're tired forces you to work. Or if you don't work, you will get hit."
Shut up, dickhead. Okay, mate, and the people who think that, let me ask you this. Is this what you're sparring for? Just to get fitter and get better conditioning? Nah. You can do that on the heavy bags. You're in there to spar, to learn and to get better. If you're tired and you're going in there, what's going to happen? You're going to make mistakes. You're going to drop your hand.
Well, exactly, Tony. That's what I'm talking about. You'll make mistakes and then you will learn from them mistakes. You'll drop your hand, you get caught over the top, and then you'll drop your hand again.
Shut up, dickhead. I've just told you, haven't I? I like doing these little improvs. Anyway, you can work on keeping your hands up on the bag. You don't have to be in the ring, dropping your hand, getting tired, and getting hit with an overhand right in the face to learn. Now, I do know this does happen in sparring. It is sparring after all. You will get tired. You will get sloppy. You will get caught with punches over the top. But we're trying to avoid this at all costs. So get fitter on the bag and then get in the ring and spar. Don't just use your sparring sessions for fitness to try and build your conditioning. Use the bag for that. So if you're going in the ring sparring at the end of the workout, you're not going to give yourself the best chance of improving, are you? And just one more thing on top of this. Pro boxers have sparring days. This is where they come to the gym, they'll do the warm-up, the shadow boxing, and then they'll just get straight into the sparring sessions. After the sparring sessions, then they might finish off on the heavy bag, working on some mistakes that they might have made in the ring, not the other way around, mate. So now them 3's out of the way, what's this method of sparring to help your brain health? And then after that, I'm going to talk about the tips that I can give you to help repair some damaged brains. Hopefully you haven't got any, but them tips will definitely help. So, this method of sparring. First, let me ask you this question. If you're hard sparring all the time, getting blasted in the face all the time, getting a bloody nose and a headache when you come out the ring all the time, unless you're a little bit crazy, that's not totally enjoyable, is it? If you don't enjoy doing something, do you tend to do it more or do you tend to do it less? Less, of course. But if something is enjoyable, we are definitely going to do it more. So we've got to think, how can we make our sparring sessions more enjoyable? So when you go in there, you're not really nervous, but instead excited, even if you're going in there with someone who's got a lot more experience than you and a lot better than you. Well, the first thing we've got to do when we're sparring is leave our bloody egos at the door. Yes, we all want to win all of the time, which is great, and we need that as fighters, but when we're focusing on winning every single spar, we would often get afraid of trying new things in the sparring session, and we just stick to the things that we're good at. And I'm going to get back to that in a second, but a quick example is I'm currently learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm useless at it, but when I go in there and spar, I'm always getting beat. I could just grab onto someone smaller who's got more experience and hold them tight for the full round and not move, but that's not going to help me improve. I want to work on the techniques that I've been learning throughout the sessions to practice them, to try and perfect them. Even though when I try these moves, I will get submitted straight away. And generally in Jiu-Jitsu, you don't get hurt, which makes it more fun, even though it's very competitive. And this is how boxing sparring should be. And if you're throwing fast punches, but light punches, and when you and your sparring partner are on the same page doing this, throwing fast punches and light punches, you can try new combinations, you can try new defense moves, because you know if you make a mistake or that doesn't hurt, you're not going to get a bust up nose or be leaving the gym with a concussion, which ultimately makes your session more enjoyable. And with this, you're going to learn more, because you can ask yourself while you're in the ring, why did that punch or combination not work? Did I predict it? Was I too slow? Etc, etc. Then you can try it again. Maybe you'll put a feint behind it this time. And this is going to teach you so much more about yourself. Because what normally happens is you'll try a combination, you'll miss it or not work, you'll get smashed really hard. Then you're like, oh, I'm not trying that again. So you're never going to improve on that. But this all comes down to communication with your sparring partner. If you're not on the same page about this and the intensity of your spar before the spar happens, you're going to end up having a bit of a ding dong. This is where one person hits the other, and he hits him back even harder, then he hits him even harder, then the egos kick in, and if you've been doing regular sparring, you'll probably have done this before, or you might have landed a hard punch on someone who's better than you, and you're like, oh no, he's gonna kill me now. I always remember them thoughts popping in my mind when I first started off. Now, communication is huge, and before I sparred with Carl Froch, who is as tough as they come, and he came over to me before the spar, and he checked me gloves, making sure there were 16-ounce gloves, and checked the padding in them. And he said, like, Tony, this spar is about learning. We're not here trying to kill each other. Let's do 6 rounds of good quality sparring. And I was absolutely blown away. He is an undefeated world champion, and he's basically coming up to me and telling us that we're going to go light. The reason why is he understood everything I'm talking about on this video. He understood what gets you better to the next level. Now, you might feel a bit embarrassed saying something to your sparring partner, so you can do 2 things. One, send him this video and see what he thinks. And the other thing you can do is just say to him before the session, like,
mate, on this sparring session, can we just work on fast and light punches, focus on technique, rather than going really hard? Because I think we can learn more from going fast and light. Are you good?
And see what he says. There's so many high-level fighters doing this now, and understand you should do this too. So send this video to your coach, send this video to your sparring partners, and get their thoughts. Now, the brain health tips. If you have been hard sparring, or you've been fighting and you find like your memories not being great, these few tips will really help you. And I'm going to do a full video on this brain health stuff soon, so make sure you subscribe and turn your notifications on so you don't miss the video. The first thing that you can do to help your brain health is journal. At the end of the day, write down the things that you've done during that day. Now, you can go as detailed or as not detailed as you like with these things. It might be hard for you to recall some of the things you did. You might be thinking, what did I do this morning? I had my breakfast, then what did I do? Write it down. It's going to help your brain bringing them thoughts back. And as well, once you've got it written down, it's there forever. In 2 months' time, you can go back to it and you can read, like, oh yeah, I remember that, and it just helps refresh your memory. I've got things that I wrote down 2 years ago, and I go back and it really helps me remember that day. And I think if I didn't have this written down, that day would have been gone out of my life forever, but I've got it now. Number 2 is getting in a sauna as regular as possible. This can really help the blood flow to your brain, and as well lower inflammation that's associated with better brain health, and it might just slow down any cognitive declines. And the third one, probably one of the most important, is your nutrition. Eating the right foods that can support brain functioning. I'm talking about omega-3 rich foods, eating leafy greens, berries, nuts, having some avocados, avoiding excessive sugar and processed crap. Keep away from that Totally. Another thing that I've done that's changed my life completely is I've quit alcohol altogether. For some people, they just cannot do that. But just be aware that when you're drinking alcohol, it's doing nothing good for your brain. Now, the next thing, there's so many studies out there that says this is the best thing you can do for your brain. And this is mixing in cardio and strength training and just having a great balanced exercise routine 3 to 5 times a week. Now, boxing is great for this, as long as you're not sparring and getting punched in the bloody head and doing your shoulder and body sparring instead. That's all I do. But even other activities like swimming, walking, running are all amazing for brain health. And then just one last thing I want to leave you with is focusing on quality sleep. Aiming for around 7 to 9 hours a night is unbelievable for this. My wife's got a YouTube channel giving you lots of sleep tips. You can check that out. Now, if you are boxing training, there is some other things that you can do that world champions are doing that coaches do not teach. These secrets, I put them on this video right here, giving you some secret training methods that only world champions do. Click here and watch this video next.